Tom Clancy's The Division is an ambitious game that attempts to blend a variety of genres and somehow manages to succeed at all of them. It's a cover-based third-person shooter that feels very similar to Gears of War. It's an online RPG that encourages you to hunt for loot and upgrade weapons, similar to Destiny. It's a tactical squad-based game where communication is paramount to survival, similar to Rainbow Six. And it's also an open-world game with no loading screens, similar to Grand Theft Auto. But most importantly, it's a fun game that kept me engaged and made me want to keep coming back again and again. In the world of The Division, a terrorist group has engineered an unstoppable virus and unleashed it on the population during Black Friday, infecting most of New York City and causing massive panic and chaos. You are a member of an elite government cell known as the Strategic Homeland Division. As an agent of the Division, your job is to work with the remaining police and military and form a joint task force with the goal of stopping the terrorists and restoring order. Throughout the game, you're given short cutscenes and radio chatter that help flesh out the story. It feels neither very engaging nor offensively bad or intrusive. The story just serves as a backdrop and an excuse to run around NYC, shooting dudes left and right. And honestly, that's all this game really needs. The Division is an online-only game that has a lot of similarities to Destiny. It's designed to be played with other people as a squad of 4, but you can choose to play alone if you wish. The difficulty scales up or down depending on your squad size, increasing enemy numbers and toughness the larger your team gets. Teaming up with friends is easy to do, and it is really the best way to play. You can also use matchmaking at any time to pair up with strangers, and I found that the game did a really good job of teaming me up with appropriately leveled players, and everyone worked cooperatively as a team, lending a hand and using their abilities to gain a tactical advantage. Although every stranger I played with was quiet on the mic, it was still loads of fun playing with other people and working together to take down enemies. On the RPG side of things, your character levels up as you defeat enemies and complete missions. Levels don't directly influence your power, but rather unlock the ability to equip better weapons and gear, and add ability slots and perks. You unlock better abilities in your base of operations by upgrading each area using resources you find out in the city. It's a system that I found to be a little complicated at first, and it took me a little while to get used to it. Once I did, though, I found that character customization is very deep and allows you to build your character to your playstyle. In a group, everyone can potentially coordinate their skills to complement one another's, with each person playing a specific role in every encounter. It's a system that's very rewarding if you put in the time to learn it. The weapons are equally deep. You've got a good assortment of assault rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, SMGs, light machine guns, and pistols. Each one can be fully customized with mods to the optics, muzzle, underbarrel, and magazine. You can buy and sell weapons or break them down for parts and build your own. Every piece of gear has an effect on your character, and finding that next piece of better loot feels very satisfying. The game mainly consists of selecting various encounters and missions from your map, and then running long distances to said mission. Most missions consist of killing some enemies to activate a thing, then defending the thing from several waves of enemies. Fortunately, the AI is pretty good and will try to force you out of cover, using grenades and flanking your position. The moment-to-moment gunplay feels solid and your character controls well. The gameplay is really fun and demands more strategic thought than your average shooter. For players looking to challenge themselves and acquire the best gear, there's the Dark Zone. Unlike the rest of Manhattan, where other players in the world can't harm you, in the Dark Zone there are no rules. AI-controlled enemies roam the streets, and you'll frequently see other players, here known as rogue agents, fighting and looting. You can choose to jump in and help them fight the AI, or go rogue and shoot them in the back and steal their loot. The penalty for going rogue is you're now marked as a target for other players for the next couple of minutes, and players who kill you get a reward. It's an interesting concept, one that I've not seen previously in a video game, but I found the Dark Zone to be very stressful, not knowing if the next agent you see will be friend or foe. I'm also not a fan of getting mugged in a video game, so I chose not to spend much time there.
Attention.
There were other minor issues I encountered in The Division. The game does a poor job of explaining where you need to go next, and the level gap between main story missions seemed to force me to grind XP in side missions and various encounters just to level up enough to survive. I also found that as I leveled up and fought higher level enemies, they became bullet sponges, soaking up massive amounts of damage. At one point, the team leader I was playing with jumped into a mission 2 levels above our own, and I didn't realize until nearly 30 minutes had gone by that we simply were never going to survive the mission. The enemies dealt far too much damage and soaked up an absurd amount of bullets. I also noticed a few minor technical issues, like enemy characters popping from one place to another in some rare instances, and the sound occasionally dropping out. It also takes a while to get onto a server, as the game puts you into a queue and makes you wait your turn. I imagine these technical issues could be ironed out with an update, and they didn't ever ruin the experience for me, they were just things I noticed. One other concern I had was the lack of variety. Much like Destiny, The Division is intended to be played for hundreds of hours over the course of months or even years. Destiny kept me hooked for 500 hours, and I owe a lot of that to the variety of enemies and planets. The Division, however, all takes place in New York. You spend the majority of your time roaming the city streets, and it all starts to look the same. Granted, there are indoor locations, such as stadiums, malls, subways, sewers, apartment buildings, and so forth, and while they did help break up some of the monotony, it all does tend to look kind of the same. Also, the enemy variety is kind of limited. Since this is a real-world setting and you're fighting humans, everyone tends to look the same. There are the gun-toting rioters, just mainly dudes in hoodies, and the flamethrower-wielding cleaners, who believe burning every last person in New York will stop the virus. And then there's the escaped convicts, known as Rikers, and lastly, the heavily armed PMC, known as the Last Man Battalion. There are small differences in the enemy types, but in all, it's not like the variety seen by the different alien races in Destiny. Still, you could easily get 100 hours or more out of The Division, and considering how little some $60 games offer, 100 hours is nothing to sneeze at. Whether or not it will have the longevity that Ubisoft is hoping for remains to be seen. But as it is, The Division is an excellent RPG shooter that is a good time whether you like playing alone or cooperatively, and adds an interesting spin on PvP that dares to try something new. Despite some minor flaws, The Division is definitely worth playing.